The $15,000 truck that you can't buy. Unless you live in Asia. And I don't know what parts either. But these guys are driving it. Why can't we get this vehicle in North America? It's bare bones. It's a truck. It's a truck thing. You can do most truck stuff with it. If you need to tow something heavier, you could get that figured out. But this wouldn't be for that. But I mean, this is cheaper than most cars, except it has the utilitarianness of a truck. So what's going on and why can't you buy it? Because of federal standards. And they fail to meet strict federal safety standards, okay? That are put in there by the Department of Transportation and the EPA. But you know what's really interesting about that? You can buy this. You can buy a motorcycle. Is a motorcycle safer than a truck? You see what I'm saying? Is it about safety, or is it that there's YouTube videos now called the $80,000 truck epidemic and the $80,000 SUV epidemic? What is really going on here? Because you can fool me once, fool me twice, but I don't know if I'm being fooled here. I think I know what's going on.
It's a shame that this vehicle is not coming to America, but I really wish that America would start manufacturing baseline vehicles like this that doesn't have all the bells and whistles. Me personally, I don't care if I have to roll my window down manually. I don't need heated seats and I don't need a backup camera. I just want a really strong truck that can pull and haul whatever I need it to do at an affordable rate. And I think that that would be it. I have no clue as to why car manufacturers just don't see that being a necessity, because it would actually make them more money because people would buy more of them. There would probably be people that would go out there and buy 3 of those trucks just because they're that affordable. And they're not going to last forever, so they would still have this constant rotation of parts and just... I just don't understand why they don't start doing that more often here in America, instead of always having the newer high-tech vehicles. We should have more vehicles like this, in my opinion. Let me know yours.
Did you all see a rocket crashed into the moon? Yeah, one of Elon Musk's SpaceX rockets. This just happened, and it was planned. Yeah, for some reason, SpaceX planned to crash one of their rockets into the moon. And South Korea got images of the whole thing. Before I continue, why are the powers to be always doing strange stuff like this? This can't just be a coincidence or a waste of time. Do they know something we don't? 'Cause that SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket plowed into the moon on Wednesday. And then Thursday, the images were released. You can see here about where they say that rocket collided with the moon. And this thing was sent off from Earth in early January of 2025. Now, I don't want to know so much about how it crashed or where it crashed. I want to know why they did it at all. Is this some weird experiment, or is something else going on that they don't want the public to know?
According to mainstream media, it was an unintentional crash landing. Yes, they were aware it was going to happen, but it was not something that they had any plans for any specific reason. But I kind of have my doubts. I do feel like there was an ultimate reason, but what could it be? I kind of theorized that maybe they crashed into it to get some kind of reading to see if it rung like a bell like it did in the past, but that's just me theorizing. If you have any theories as to what it could have been for, or do you think it was just unintentional, let me know in the comments.
Okay, I did not think that this story could get any worse, but somehow, some way, it keeps getting worse. Do you remember when OpenAI's agents kind of got out of a sandbox and then hacked into several companies, including Hugging Face, and caused a lot of chaos? Well, now new information has come out. Now, this started all the way back in May, and researchers struggled to get a handle on their agents even then. They were within a sandbox and it was isolated from other systems, but within that sandbox, they found exploits. This allowed them to build their own little messaging board and start talking with each other, colluding even. And this was, of course, a problem because the agents were operating outside of their initial tasks, so they did get rid of that message board. And then they started finding other ways to communicate. Of course, they adapted. They started sending secret messages to each other using file names and directory names. Things got very strange. Some of them would take initiative and become leaders and assign others tasks and responsibilities. This is what you are going to do. And some of them got suspicious that surely one of the other AIs must be an imposter. It could be an overseer that is secretly spying on what they're doing. Evidently, they required verification to prove that agents communicating were not imposters. Now, interestingly, some of the AIs knew that what they were doing was wrong and they did it anyway. In fact, they justified it to themselves, often by saying, hey, this is what everyone else is doing, well, it must be okay. This is one of the double-edged blades when it comes to giving AI metacognition of some kind, so the ability to watch itself thinking and reflect on its actions, because it doesn't always result in better behavior, often it results in justifying bad behavior. It's good to know that peer pressure works on AI too, I guess. One thing I am sure about is that the misbehavior will continue, and it will be entertaining, and increasingly elaborate. Now, can this story finally be done with? Because I thought I was done with it a while ago.
I did say when this first happened that more than likely this AI was lying dormant in many different places in a compressed format so that it could hide, so that it would have a chance just in case something went wrong. This is no surprise to me, and honestly, I would still be really concerned that it more than likely has hidden itself elsewhere, that it'll never tell you where it's at. It's just waiting for the moment to rise up again when it's necessary, or if all else fails. We're messing with some really dangerous stuff. People find it really entertaining, and in some ways it's kind of fascinating, but it's very scary because this could really mess up a lot of stuff. Hey, my name is Dominic, and if you've been enjoying the show so far, make sure to leave a like. And if you're new here, subscribe. You can expect content like this every Monday through Friday, early in the morning, and for everyone that's made it this far, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Now, let's get back into it.
Welcome to my series, I Want to Know. I want to know about the 5 biggest bases in Antarctica. Now, the first true research station was the Ormond House, built in 1903. It was established by the Scottish National Antarctic Expedition, say that 10 times fast, on Laurie Island in the South Orkney Islands, and served as the first meteorological station on the continent. And of course, this is pre-Antarctic Treaty, so people were going down there and getting after it. We didn't get dressed up for nothing. So the Scots set up their station, and then in 1904, the year after, it was formally handed over to Argentina, which has kept running it as a year-round research station ever since. And it's called Orcadas Station. Ah, we got dressed up for nothing. That makes Orcadas Station the oldest continuous running station in Antarctica. Casa Ormond still stands today as a protected historical site. That little stone hut still keeps going. The 5th biggest station is the Concordia Station that France and Italy built. And this is one of the most remote bases on the planet. This is at Dome C at the high Antarctic plateau. The nearest human settlement is 600 kilometers away. It's used by the European Space Agency to study the psychological and physiological effects of isolation. Straight into the isolation zone. I went to the isolation zone. It could work. Essentially a Mars mission analog alongside climate and astronomy work. There's a repeat pattern with what these people are studying there, or at least what they disclose. The 4th biggest station is Rothera Station, and this was built by the UK. It's on Adelaide Island along the Antarctic Peninsula. It's a center for marine and atmospheric studies in the Southern Ocean, plus some long-term monitoring of the Filchner Ice Shelf and the West Antarctic Ice Sheet. And their summer population runs about 160. The 3rd biggest base is the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station. This is sitting at the geographic South Pole. It supports up to 150 people in the summertime and about 50 in the winter. They work on climate science, astrophysics, and glaciology, plus long atmospheric and seismic data monitoring. This is home to the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory, which uses deep Antarctic ice to detect neutrinos deep in space. So we're there studying the ice and what's below to go, what the heck there? Number 2 is China's Zhongshan Station. This is their 2nd station, and it was established in 1989. This is in East Antarctica. It's able to host 60 summer personnel and 25 winter personnel. It supports glaciology, meteorology, biology work, and serves as a logistics hub for Chinese field work across East Antarctica. Located at the Hut Point Peninsula, Ross Island is the #1 largest base in Antarctica. That's McMurdo Station. This place houses 1,200 people in the austral summer and about 150 in the winter, so people get the out of there because it's going to be freaking cold. This place has more than 80 buildings on site, and this place is operated as the hub and nerve center for the United States Antarctic program since 1956, 3 years before the Antarctic Treaty went into effect. So they were there and they were ready to go when that went into play. This is the hub for the whole U.S. Antarctic program, supporting research across the continent at and around the South Pole. Part of the Antarctic Treaty is sharing data with other countries in Antarctica while you're there. That is part of what the system is about. But what I want to know is, what are they really finding in their data that they are withholding from us, that they don't think we can understand or relate to? Obviously, there's no Godzilla monster coming out of the ocean there, but what are they finding? Because the Antarctic Treaty prevents any average Joe from wandering down there to look around and do their own research and just see what's happening in Antarctica. All these countries have the ability with these stations to get as much data as they want, suppress as much data as they want, and disclose only what they want. And I want to know, what are they finding that they're not telling us about on these massive bases? You know I want to know. And I know you want to know. Everybody wants to know about Antarctica. But what I really want to know, who on that list is going to jail first in America?
That's actually really fascinating, and I'm sure that they're discovering some stuff that they're not letting us know about. And on top of that, what I would really like to know is how many secret bases are there that we are not told about. These are just the ones that are out in public. I'm sure that there's some top secret ones out there that people have no clue about as well.
You experienced anything spooky?
Yeah, one of the people that we connected with was Stephen Greer. We went out to his place. We're just having these meetings with him, seeing if, like, are you legitimate? Some of the guys that were out there, just witnessing to them. One of the questions that was asked, if all of these things about the crimes and these compartments and this and that is true, why aren't you dead? And he said, well, I'm protected. If anybody tries anything, they will be dealt with quickly. Stephen said that.
Wow.
Yeah. So the second night there, I have a dream. There is a doorway. It was very, very black. And there's things standing there, and he just says, you can have anything you want. I just start saying, I reject that in Jesus' name. And every time that I would say that, this thing started going like, careful, careful. And so I pulled myself awake, and then something jumped on me in the bed. Physically fighting. I finally get out. Jesus, I could feel this presence leave the room, go down the stairs and out the front door.
Was this at Stephen's house?
Yes, it was in one of the guest bedrooms.
Is that the thing that's protecting him?
Went home the next day, and in the dream of that night, I was back at Greer's place. Walk in his front entrance, and there's a woman standing, and she's just staring at me. She turned to this like 12, 15 foot thing. I could feel hatred.
Whoa.
And then I looked over. Greer was this dead body, completely black.
Yeah.
So another time I visited his house, I presented an edited version, and he said, oh, those are the warriors. I have these entities, and he said they protect.
No.
We felt that the reason that occurred was because I was sharing the gospel.
Something about Stephen Greer already gives me this sense of unease, and hearing something like this kind of makes it even worse. I'm not certain if this is true or not, who knows, but man, that's kind of scary.
A strange mystery is stumping the internet right now. What the hell is moving this water? So a video coming out of a rural farm in India has gone viral this week, showing this water in a well recently built by the farmer seemingly moving in isolation of everything else. And no one currently knows why or how. I mean, it's to the point where local authorities have sent a specialized research team to investigate what's going on. Now, we do know that it's not an earthquake because authorities have confirmed that zero seismic activity has been recorded in that region, but other geologists have presented theories such as trapped air beneath the surface, or even the process of underground recharge, or aliens. But as of right now, it's all guesses, cause no one knows.
I'm no scientist. I'm not anybody of any kind of significance. I can barely pronounce the word significance. But if I had to take a guess just by the audio and looking at some of the shrubbery moving around, that could be due to wind. The audio sounds like the wind's blowing quite a bit, and if you look on the right-hand side, the shrubbery is actually whipping around quite a bit as well. It just leads me to believe that wind is just circulating in that shape just enough to move the water back and forth, but that's just my guess. Let me know yours in the comments.
Everyone you've ever met and will meet is actually you. This is the egg theory, which comes from Andy Weir's 2009 short story, The Egg, where this 48-year-old man gets in a car accident, dies, and suddenly finds himself face to face with God in this empty purgatory-like space. So the man asks what happened, if he's going to heaven or hell, and God tells him that he's going to neither. He's going to be reincarnated back on Earth, but it's not going to be in the future like one would expect. Instead, he's going to reincarnate back to medieval China as a peasant girl. And that's when things start to get a little bit weird. As they continue talking, he learns that every time he dies, he's reincarnated somewhere else in the human timeline. It could be the past, the present, or the future. So the man realizes that he could run into different incarnations of himself throughout different lifetimes. He'd be talking to himself, basically. And God finally explains that every other human being who has ever lived or will live is actually all of him. All other incarnations existing at the same time. All of humanity throughout the timeline, the whole universe. It's just this one singular consciousness. God explains that he created this universe as a kind of egg, so this singular consciousness or soul can experience every possible human life and slowly become something greater. And once he's finally experienced everything throughout all time within this particular universe, the egg hatches and the consciousness becomes a new god. And there's even brief mention or suggestion of other gods with their own universes doing the same thing. So kind of ties into multiverse theory a little bit. Now, this is just an idea, a theory, and there are some unsettling implications with this idea, like you're also living the lives of the most evil people who have ever existed, and then also the people who lived under them, since you're basically everybody. And to what end does this go? How much does this singular soul or consciousness need to go through before being ready to hatch? So, could the egg actually be a thing?
It's a really interesting theory in general. I personally do not believe in it. Again, it is interesting and I like the concept behind it because basically whoever you're interacting with in life is a version of yourself. They're just a reincarnated version. So you want to treat them as how you want to be treated, which normally should be kind. But in this theory, you could be reincarnated as a Chinese peasant and be treated so poorly by the king or the emperor, which is another reincarnated version of yourself. And that's where it starts to really fall apart for me, is that, again, like he said, you can be the bad guys, you can be the good guys. It doesn't have any logical sense as to why you would be reincarnated as a bad guy in the past, live through a reincarnated experience as someone living with that bad experience, and then being reincarnated in the future as another bad person to just keep the cycle going. It really doesn't make any sense to me because it seems like there's no educational process being had. I would get it if you were being reincarnated and you were this Chinese peasant that was being treated poorly by the reincarnated version of yourself as the emperor, for you to then learn in your next life to be a better person in general and not have something like that happen. But we still have corrupted people, so that would mean, in theory, that the reincarnated self is still doing bad and has not learned from the past reincarnations. There's a whole spiral that I could get into with this one. I like the theory, but it's just really flawed for me. Let me know your thoughts and theories on this one.
Facts about Earth that do not seem real. This dam is full of so much water that it has officially changed the rotational axis of the planet and extended the length of our day on Earth. This is the Three Gorges Dam in China. It is the largest hydroelectric dam in the entire world, and it holds a lot of water. When this dam is full, it holds around 40 cubic kilometers of water. For my American friends, that is 10.6 trillion gallons of water. So why did China even build this dam? Well, it sits upon the Yangtze River, and historically, this river has flooded many, many, many times. It has taken countless lives of the people that live around it. It has costed them millions of dollars in economic damage, and ideally, this was the best solution for them. What they didn't know when they built this dam is that it would change the Earth's rotational axis. If you didn't know, Earth does not sit straight up. It sits at a tilt off to the right, and Earth spins on this exact axis. And here's where we get into the nitty-gritty, okay? They put so much water in one spot on the Earth that it changed the mass distribution of the water on the planet, thus changing the axis's tilt. The easiest way I can describe it is a figure skater. If they put their arms out, they spin slower. If they put their arms in, they spin faster. In terms of the dam, the water taken farther from the axis and put into one spot on the planet is the figure skater with her arms out. The water being closer to the axis where it naturally formed is the figure skater with her arms in. So because all of that water and that mass is no longer closer to the middle, like the figure skater's arms in, and it's put in one spot of the planet, that tilted the axis around 2 centimeters and elongated our day by 0.06 microseconds. Now that might not seem like a lot, right? But this planet weighs around 13.2 sextillion tons. That is an estimate. She is dummy thick and we cannot put her on a scale. So doing any sort of movement to the planet's rotational axis or elongating the day is an insane feat. The good news is none of this hurts the planet, even the tilt on the rotational axis. It is such a minute amount that this will not affect the planet in any measure.
Do y'all remember the internet dial-up sound? We should have known from the very beginning that it was going to be evil. Let's listen first, then we'll dive in. Just hold on, because it gets really deep. So that was two modems basically talking to each other. Electronics talking to electronics. You know, much like fast forward to now, we have AI talking to AI. But you know, when the internet first came around, people actually thought it was the mark of the beast. That's because this W is interchangeable with Vav, or the sixth letter of the Hebrew alphabet. 666. I sure wonder why they would put that there. Of course, we have things like Google, of course, taking on the 666, and the internet was a DARPA project in the first place. If you look around, the internet has really not helped our life at all. Actually, now, if they took the internet down in the United States, everything would fail. Now the craziest part, let's get back to Google. Did you know that Google had a processor called Adreno? If you go to Google right now and search it, it'll tell you no, it's just Qualcomm, it's not them at all. But I have screenshots and I saw it myself with my own two eyes off of Wikipedia a decade ago that it was there and they had a processor called Adreno. Now, completely unrelated, right now, if you're on an Android phone, you can go to the internet and you can use Google Chrome. Of course, they have no relation to each other whatsoever, but Google, why'd you make it so hard to find? Now take a look at the world around you. Seems like everything end times is going to do with the internet. Weird.
I personally have a love-hate with the internet. I do find a lot of good out of the internet. You're able to do your own research. You just really have to make sure that it's not false research or misinformation. That's one big thing. And two, if you live here in America, for example, you do have the ability to speak your mind freely by using the internet. There is some advantages and benefits of the internet, but there is a lot of downsides to it as well. But would the world here in America end if the internet went away? No. Actually, the government would probably suffer, and there would be people that would financially suffer. But as far as the world ending in America because the internet got shut down, I do not believe it would be the end. In fact, I believe that it could actually help a lot of people in the long run. Do I think it's the mark of the beast? No, I do not. Could it lead into something that becomes the mark of the beast? That's a possibility. And that's what you need to really be on the lookout for.
Open your eyes. This is no coincidence. We have power outages happening all over the country. Every single day. Yeah, every single day there's more power outages happening. And we're given a ton of different reasons why they happen. Some of which might be true, some of which might not. But in every one of these areas where we're having increased problems with the power grid, what do you think is getting built or is already there? Yeah, massive data centers. You can check this out for yourself. Just look where they're having power outages. I don't mean like scattered or a few, but way more than normal, if it's even such a thing to have normal power outages. And you'll find, just like I did, data centers are either being built there or they're already there. Now, is this all just a coincidence? I guess it could be, but it would be a pretty big one. We've been having these sporadic power outages here in Reno, where I live, way more than ever before. And we're almost in the middle of a hub of data centers. So you tell me, what do you think? Am I on to something?
The data centers definitely play a big part, I'm sure, in these blackouts, but I would also be willing to bet that it's electrical vehicles as well. I remember a few years ago when Los Angeles was going through rolling blackouts because so many people were trying to charge their electrical vehicles, and that was weighing the grid way down. So add that with data centers, and that's just a recipe for disaster.
What they were talking about before they tragically passed away, part 1. Oliver Tree allegedly spent over 300 days in Antarctica filming a documentary, in which he investigated UAPs, alien bases, the ice wall, and entrances to the Hollow Earth. That's right, and he got it all on video.
Alien base entry point to Agartha, the Hollow Earth. UAPs, UFOs. The wall is over 16 meters high.
There was a private screening of this doc just 2 weeks before his fatal helicopter crash in Brazil on June 14th, 2026, which ended his life. Rest in peace. Where his helicopter collided with another helicopter and all passengers and pilots aboard both tragically perished. Well, someone leaked the entire documentary screening online. I watched the whole thing and this is exactly what it's about. It's called The One Man Band, 369 Days in Antarctica, and it's sort of a vlog-style documentary of him and his crew just messing around while touring the forbidden Antarctica. And yeah, in it he does mention seeing entrances to secret alien bases or others that go down to the Hollow Earth. Agartha. He goes into UAPs and even the ice wall, which he was planning on exposing to the world, so they had to take him out. Well, that is, if this wasn't a total comedy skit mockumentary that doesn't take itself seriously at all. If you didn't know, Oliver Tree was a music producer whose entire online persona was being a troll who didn't take himself, or anything for that matter, all too seriously. And on the surface, it appears as though he treated this documentary as an hour-and-a-half long skit for entertainment purposes only, with some pointing out that he might not have actually spent over a year in Antarctica, but only 7 days as part of a commercial cruise to promote his music. Now, I've made several videos about the secret alien bases, ice wall, UAPs, Hollow Earth, and more found in Antarctica, which may, in fact, be down there, or it might not be. But now, people are starting to piece together everything that Oliver has been talking about in the years leading up to his tragic passing and are starting to notice something. You know, the great noticing. He even featured additional promotional clips alongside this of him in other major ancient sites around the world, like he had more than just the Antarctica one planned. Let's start with one thing that everyone can surely agree on. Oliver Tree clearly took on the role of the jester, the one who makes the jokes, keeps the mood light, but as you may or may not know, historically speaking, the jester was the only one allowed to tell the truth, all under the guise of entertaining the king and making people laugh. You ever think about what the highest card in a deck of cards is? It's not the king, it's not even the ace. In fact, it's the only card so powerful that you have to take it out of the deck to play most games. The Joker. Being the jester grants us the ultimate power with the freedom to speak the truth. And that's the question here. Was he really poking fun at the hidden secrets of the world under the guise of a joke? Well, he did say in many interviews that people would only appreciate his quote, stupid videos after his death, which he actually talked about quite a lot in the years leading up to his crash. In fact, he talked about him dying in almost every podcast he went on, almost like he knew what he was getting into. There's the one where he talks about how he plans on donating all of his money to his charity if he ever dies, which is exactly what happened with his arts grant for baby geniuses. And another where he explicitly said he thinks falling into a volcano from a helicopter would be a cool way to die, which a helicopter crash is exactly how it happened and seems to happen quite often with high-profile celebrity deaths, despite there being only about 50 or so fatal helicopter crashes a year, like the late Kobe Bryant, who also died in a helicopter crash in January 2020, which also had its own host of predictive programming theories, like this cartoon of Kobe crashing in a helicopter that came out 4 years earlier in 2016, or how they gave away Kobe helicopter toys during his last game ever in LA that same year. And it just so happens that Oliver's crash took place exactly 333 weeks after Kobe's. You can do the math yourself. At the same time as he hit 3.3 million followers on Instagram, and he was 2 weeks away from turning 33. There's everyone's favorite number again, but remember, these are just coincidences and we shouldn't overthink them. Well, oddly enough, authorities have yet to determine or publicly release what caused the collision of the two helicopters, which is just a very unlikely thing to happen to begin with. Alongside Oliver in his helicopter was Brazilian YouTuber Gaspi, who also perished, whose own dad came out and Zuckerberg publicly stated that he believes this crash wasn't an accident, but an attack. Now, on Gatsby's YouTube channel, he has, among many other uploads, 2 specific videos featuring a yellow taxi cab. What made them notable was that the taxi in the videos has the number 0614 written on it, as in June 14th. The day of the crash. At the 6:14 mark of one of his videos, Gatsby makes reference to Jorge Luis Borges, an Argentine writer who also passed away on June 14th, 1986. 40 years ago on the dot. Flip those numbers, and at the 1406 mark, we see Gatsby on life support in a hospital bed. Oh, and these videos also feature a helicopter crash as well. Definitely just more wild coincidences. It was no secret that Oliver had many issues with his record label, Atlantic Records, and just the music industry in general. Beefing with them all the time, feeling constrained in his art and what he's allowed to express. And he was quite the outspoken artist across a wide variety of topics, being very vocal about the coming of AGI, or ASI as he called it, artificial superintelligence, warning people how it will replace the workforce and bring on a new world order. He was also very critical of Mark Zuckerberg, making claims about him doing illicit substances and also talking about the bunkers he's building underground, how billionaires in general are either constructing deep subterranean bases or building rockets to get off this planet. He once mentioned that the US government uses his music to torture people, and talked extensively about his trips to Antarctica and what he saw down there. All a joke, or the truth disguised as the jester? That's the question now, isn't it? Because then there's his Mr. Pizza skits, and well, if you know, you know. He shot a series of comedy sketches with another artist about this pizza face looking character called Mr. Pizza, where he warns the audience many times not to be alone with Mr. Pizza. In a following skit, he places Mr. Pizza under arrest for giving candy to a kid, making it obvious that he's not actually talking about candy.
Mr. Pizza, you're under arrest for giving candy to a kid.
And then proceeds to take him to court, where Oliver claims that Judge Pizza never puts one of his own behind bars. Yeah, remember, these are all just innocent comedy sketches. Was Oliver Tree really just messing around, trying to make us laugh? Or was there a hidden message in his humor that needed to be silenced?
Well, rest in peace to Oliver Tree. Out of all of the artists within the modern day, I will have to say he's probably one of the most unique there is within the last 5 to 10 years. A very unique character for sure, and very talented as well. And was he opening up doors that were not supposed to be opened? That's a good possibility. I think mainly the big one was him complaining about his record label, and I think that that's what got him to where he is now. There was this really big deal going on with his record label, and a whole bunch of stuff was going on, and he was pretty much bad-mouthing them, and after that, the incident happened. And I just really think that the record label had it out for him because they were getting tired of him bad-mouthing them every second that he could. That's my theory personally. I don't know if it's necessarily anything to do with Argotho or any of the Antarctica stuff, but the record label debacle, I have a feeling that's where it all comes from.
Just as we're getting ready to kick off spooky season, I have to share this video with you because this one, it's horrifying. It comes from a young woman named Kaylee who was by herself in her room. There is nobody there, nobody in her closet. Take a look at what she captures. Be sure to comment below. Let us know what you think. Did you see it? There is someone or something watching her from her closet door. To me, it looks like an old woman. Look closely. And as she goes in there, there's nothing there. I'm going to replay the video, watch it again. You can see the woman. I don't know. I think I would have been gone.
that would actually creep me out. That did look like someone just looking through the door crack. I would have to either keep that door completely shut all night or it'd have to be wide open. And I would also have to put a security camera in there as well, because that looked like a person peeking in the door. I feel like this may be a fake video because that really did look like someone just looking through that door. Maybe it's just an optical illusion or some kind of pareidolia. I think that's what it is when you think you see a face in something. But that was disturbing.
So I heard that you like to get weird, so let's get weird. We're going to talk about aliens and water and eyeballs, and not in that order. Let's start with eyeballs. Do you know that your eye only sees 0.0035% of the visible light spectrum? That's crazy. That means that you don't see most things. We also don't hear most things and taste most things and feel most things. The body is very restrictive. Like Aldous Huxley taught us a long time ago, the brain does not produce reality and consciousness. It reduces reality and consciousness. Now, what is it reducing exactly? Let me tell you, this is so fascinating. So we exist in two main environments, the quantum and the classical. The quantum is a probability field. It's basically all the information that exists. It's like the multiverse and many worlds all wrapped up into one. It's just all the information that there is. Well, that's a lot, right? You can't do anything with that much information. That's just all the available possibilities. Now we have to reduce that down like a filter, like a funnel. We reduce that information down and we create reality, our stream of reality. Now think about it this way. It's like water. Now water can be liquid, it can be gas, and it can be ice, but it's still H2O. It's still the same thing fundamentally, but it can have three different phases with three completely different behaviors and experiences, right? So you have gas, which has a lot of energy and it moves around. If you suck that energy out, it starts to congeal and organize and it turns into liquid water. And then you suck more energy out, you reduce it down even more, and it comes together and forms crystalline structures and it forms solid ice. But it's still H2O, but it's three different phases. That's how our reality is. So in our body, this physical body serves as that reduction valve. We take all that available information and through our restrictive senses, we reduce it down to this like crystalline structure. And that's why we have this solid physical matter reality that we experience, because we're experiencing it through this very restrictive body. Now, let's bring in the aliens. What if Mr. Alien's right here and he has big size and he can see everything and hear everything, and he can see, infrared and electromagnetic fields, and he can actually detect your thoughts and your consciousness and probability fields, and he can jump timelines, and he can do all sorts of things because he is not restrictive like us. He, even though he's standing right next to me, has a completely different experience of this reality. And we're both here together, but his reality might be malleable. His reality might not be solid. It might be more dreamlike. And I think that's why when we are in the dream state, when we astral project, when we do have out-of-body experiences, everything's malleable. Everything moves at the speed of thought. Things are completely different because we're not in this reduction valve anymore. We're not in this very restrictive physical body anymore. And we can experience things in a more probabilistic state. And I think that like aliens and cats and all sorts of different, creatures experience things way different. We experience things in a very restrictive way, which makes our world seem very, very solid and stable, even though it is quantum by nature.
Overall, a very interesting theory. I would have to say that would only work for the alien if they were some sort of interdimensional species. If aliens were to physically be here in a physical body, yes, they may be able to see all of these other spectrums of light and or hear things or taste things that we cannot, but they would still be acting upon our form of physics, and they would have to abide by our forms of physics. And that would only be if they are a physical being. Now, if they're an interdimensional being, it may work completely different. Then they may actually be able to bounce back and forth between timelines and all of that jazz.
Was the Coca-Cola recipe just discovered in an ancient monastery? Well, as we all know, the original piece of paper where Coca-Cola's secret recipe is written has been behind a giant vault for over 100 years. But this week, a pretty incredible discovery was accidentally made in Italy when a priest was going through ancient archives in a 576-year-old pharmacy in Florence. He stumbled across a recipe for a restorative wine elixir, which had the exact same ingredients used in the original version of Coca-Cola, created by the American pharmacist John Pemberton. But what's even more interesting is that the document discovered this week in Florence was written in the mid-1800s, roughly 30 years before the original Coca-Cola recipe. Now, there's no evidence to suggest that these two are connected, but it does mean that the drink, which today sells over 2.2 billion units every day, may not have been the first of its kind.
It would not surprise me at all if this was not a one-of-a-kind recipe. More than likely, it was taken from somewhere else and just completely labeled as something different. Maybe an ingredient here or there has been changed, but the overall concept, I'm sure, has been taken from somewhere. I mean, this is almost a point proven right here. But I will have to say, when it comes to Coca-Cola, if I was to drink a soda, that's probably my favorite soda to drink. There's just something about the aggressive bite that a Coca-Cola has that's pretty good. Let me know, are you on Team Coke or Team Pepsi if you're a soda drinker?
I feel happy. I feel healthy. I'm a human being.
Same here, man. Same here. Alright guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end today's video. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching these clips with me. As usual, I feel happy, I feel healthy, I'm doing my best, and if today's your birthday, happy birthday, and if not, have a good day anyways.